Hi guys, welcome back to Fort Reads. Tonight we're on chapter 14 of 24 Hours in Nowhere, which puts us at 6 a.m. Gus! Rossi was shaking me. Gus, wake up! I opened my eyes. What? What's going on? We fell asleep. The sun is up. I felt disoriented as I shielded my eyes from the sunlight. For a moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then I looked down and I saw the desert ground far below us. I stood up carefully and took out my pocket watch. It's after 6 already. Now we can see what this paper is, Rossi said as she quickly pulled it out and unfolded it. She shook her head and looked down at it. Then she held it up to the sun. What is it? She studied it a while. Finally, she said, It is a map. I laughed. Jessie will be so excited. What's it a map of? She looked at me. It's a map of the cave. She pointed at a spot on the map. This is where we were, where Matthew went into the ground. You can see there's another huge cavern below it. She pointed to another spot on the map. I think this is where the bats were and where the mine collapsed. I pointed at one side of the map. What do you think this big shaded area is? Rossi shook her head. I don't know, but maybe we should try to avoid it. Yeah, I agreed. I wasn't thrilled at the prospect of facing the unknown, especially a big, dark, shaded unknown. Rossi pointed at another spot on the map. This is marked as an exit, but I think that's where another big section of the mine caved in. She looked at me excitedly. Do you think William Dufert knew about the cave and made this map? Maybe. Her mouth opened and shut. Maybe he didn't die in the mine collapse at all. Maybe he went into the mountain. I smiled. You have a lot of interesting theories. I looked down at the map. It's cool and all, I said, but it doesn't seem to really tell us anything very important. See this? Rossi said. Over here, AL. What do you think that means? I think it's close to where we came in. I thought for a moment. Angry ladies? We should probably avoid that area too. Rossi ignored my joke, too focused on the map. This other area right here is circled, but it's not labeled. I wonder what's there. Shaking her head, she folded the map back up and put it in her pocket. Too bad there isn't another exit marked. I gazed at the distant city of Casa Grande, which had been so bright and shining in the moonlight. It was barely visible in the glaring sunlight now, just a brown mirage in the distance. I wished there were some way for me to fly off this mountain, but I knew I had to go back in the horrible hole. It won't be as bad going back, I assured Rossi. She shook her head. No, it'll be worse, because this time we're going towards the dark instead of the light. I shuddered at Rossi's words before crouching down and squeezing into the hole. It didn't take long for panic to set in as I stared ahead into the darkness. Now's your turn to tell me something, I said. Rossi breathed heavily behind me. I'm not a thief, she finally said. I stopped to catch my breath. What? I don't care what Matthew or anyone else thinks, but I want you to know I'm not a thief. I continued inching forward. I never thought for a moment you were. Rossi wheezed in and out a few times. It's scrap metal. What? I get money by selling scrap metal to the scrap yard. You know, people treat this area of the desert like their own personal garbage can. Car parts and bed frames and pipes and even old trailer parts and everything you can imagine. They just toss it out in the desert. I haul it in on my bike and sell it. I don't think people realize that metal is valuable. Copper's the most valuable, but I almost never find any of that. Aluminum and steel are worth something, though, and there's quite a bit of that out there. Plus, it cleans up the desert. Sometimes I haul in material I know isn't worth anything just because I can't stand to look at it. Now that I thought about it, I had seen her pulling stuff behind her bike and had wondered more than once what the heck she was doing dragging garbage around. Industrious. Diligent and hardworking. That's smart, Rossi. You're smart. Well, I don't know about that, she took a deep wheezing breath behind me. I just know about metal. I was already at the end. I pushed myself out back into the dark of the cave. I reached for Rossi in the blackness. She grabbed my hand, and I helped her crawl back out the ledge. Once she was out, the light from the opening lit up the cave around us. We stood and stared at each other, still grasping hands, our breathing gradually evening out. You know about a lot of things, I told her. I let go of Rossi's hand and searched for Matthew and Jesse. All I found was my backpack lying on the rock. They were gone. Man, I cried, they had one job. One job. Sit here and wait. I looked below us. Lion's gone. Maybe it ate him, Rossi said, and even though it wouldn't really be funny if Matthew and Jesse had been eaten alive by a mountain lion, I laughed a little. Lantern and flashlight are gone too, but there's your shoe. And your helmet. I scanned the ground below us. They must be somewhere around here. I guess we better get down. I slipped my backpack over my shoulders, even though there wasn't anything useful left in it. A new backpack wasn't an option in my life, and I didn't want to be one of the kids who had to bring their school stuff in a garbage bag. We jumped from boulder to boulder until we got down to the lowest one. I helped ease Rossi down and then turned around and slid off the large rock. I fell back and Rossi tried to catch me, but we both tumbled to the cave floor, rocks digging into every part of me. Rossi grunted. I think I landed on your shoe. She reached under herself and pulled it out. I took my shoe from her and slipped it back on. Thank goodness it got saved, even if it now had tooth marks in it. Actually, the tooth marks made the cheap shoe feel cooler somehow, like a tough scar. I got up and brushed the dirt off my ripped clothing. I looked down at my "at least it's a dry heat" t-shirt. It was so ripped and stained the words were no longer readable. So basically, the shirt had been improved. I don't think I'll be wearing this again, I said. Rossi fingered her own ripped t-shirt. No. The area we were standing in was lit up by the daylight coming through the hole. A little island of light. Rossi sighed. We're stuck. So stupid leaving the boulder, I mumbled. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Then I heard distant footsteps, quick ones, and lots of them. Then Jesse's voice. Run! He cried. Then Matthew. Pigs! Rossi and I stood frozen. Matthew and Jesse were running straight for us, and the light from the tiny flashlight moving around spastically in Jesse's hand, followed by the largest herd of javelina I'd ever seen in my life. Rossi grabbed my arm and pulled me in the other direction. We ran into the dark, but the javelinas were soon under our feet. One even butted me in the butt, a feat only possible for the stubby pig because of my short legs. I stumbled to the ground and covered my head with my arms as they stampeded around me. When it was finally quiet and I had moved each of my limbs around to make sure they weren't broken, I jumped up. Rossi, I said. I felt on the verge of panic, being in the dark and not knowing where anyone was. Technically, javelinas are peccaries? Rossi said in the dark, breathing hard. Not pigs. Thanks for the science lesson, Miss Rossi, teacher lady, I heard Matthew say from somewhere. A light flipped on not too far from us, and we turned to find Matthew and Jesse clinging to the wall behind us. Are the peckers gone? Jesse asked. They're gone. It's safe to come down now. Matthew and Jesse slowly got down from the wall. Why'd you guys leave? I asked. They looked at each other. We fell asleep for a while, Matthew said. Don't know how long. Then we heard this snorting. It was totally freaking us out. Jesse elbowed him. I mean, we were curious to find out what it was, and then we saw this cute little baby javelina below us. It started running away, so we followed it, thinking, it might be a way out, and then a bunch of big javelina came out of nowhere and chased us. And that's when we ran back into you. We were only gone for like 2 minutes. How long were you gone? What time is it? It's after 6, I said. We were gone for a couple of hours. Did you get out? Yeah. But the hole led us to a ledge on the side of the mountain. There was no way for us to get down. Jesse's shoulders slumped. You think someone could hear you if you yelled? I think we're still at least a mile from town based on where we were on the mountain. I don't think anyone could hear us from there. But the good news is we seem to be moving closer to town instead of further away. What does that matter if we can't get out? Matthew said. We're going to get out, I assured him. All these animals get in and out, so we will. I looked from Matthew to Jesse. Where's the lantern? Jesse shook his head. Burned out, man. It's gone. I dropped it when the javelina came at us because it was useless anyway. I breathed in. You mean all we have for light is that little flashlight? Until it burns out too, said Matthew. We'll be stuck in here in the dark, said Jesse. We need to get out of here. I opened the pocket watch and checked the time. You're probably right. Maybe we should go in the direction the pigs came from. They probably left a trail. Did you guys see what was on that paper? Matthew asked. Oh yeah, it's kind of cool. It's a map of the cave. Jesse's face lit up. I knew he would be thrilled about guessing right. I told you it was a map. Then we can get out, Matthew said. I shook my head. No, the only exit marked leads to a collapsed area of the mine. It's probably blocked. Let me see that pocket watch. Jesse snatched it out of my hand. He shined the flashlight on it while we continued debating what to do. I vote for the pigs, I said. Me too, said Rossi. Okay, Matthew said. The pig way. We all looked at Jesse. Hey, do you think the person who made that map scratched this stuff onto the watch? Scratched what stuff? I looked at the watch in Jesse's hand. I've never seen any stuff scratched. Here, inside the secret compartment, it says A.L.'s nose, whatever that means. I looked at Rossi. A.L.? Rossi opened the paper again and we shined the flashlight on it. Here, she said, not far from where we first came in, which is here, she said softly to herself. And then there are petroglyphs. There's an arrow here. She stopped and looked at me. What? I asked. That arrow. The one on the rock. It was pointing in the direction of A.L. It's this one here. She looked at Jesse. Maybe it is a treasure map. Matthew eyed me. But who made the map? Gus's great-grandfather or mine? Does it really matter? Rossi said. Something is here at A.L.'s nose. Something important enough to leave clues on how to get there. Rossi looked at me and her eyes huge and glowing in the flashlight. Gold, I said. She nodded excitedly. I think so too. Stop. Jesse shuffled from foot to foot, shaking his head. I don't know about going back where we were, man. If this flashlight burns out, we'll never make it. It's worth a try, isn't it? I said. Jesse was now hopping from foot to foot. I don't even know what A.L. means. Maybe we'll know when we get there, I said. And maybe we'll all die in the dark, Jesse cried. So dramatic. I tell you what, I said. If it even flickers once, we'll get out of here. The last thing I want is to be stuck here in the dark. I shivered at the thought. What about the race? Said Matthew. We can't get Rossi's bike back without any gold. So that doesn't even matter, I said. It does matter, Matthew. It does matter, Matthew said. I can still race. Jesse snorted. Yeah, race and lose. Matthew stared at the ground and mumbled. It's not totally not true. He looked at Jesse. But at least I'm not such a bad racer that I destroyed my bike. That wasn't my fault, Jesse whined. I hit a rut in the silt. Matthew gaped at JC. And how's that not your fault? Enough, I said. Let's vote on it. Raise your hand if you want to go find a bag of gold, potentially enough to buy whatever we want, including new dirt bikes for everyone. Rossi and I raised our hands. Jesse and Matthew looked at each other. I hoped I had brainwashed them well enough with the promise of new dirt bikes. They slowly raised their hands. Have a good night, guys.